Cultural Commission to order. It's now exactly 6 o'clock. We're on time. So, the call to order, could we have roll call, please?
Chair Deneo,
I'm here, sort of.
Vice Chair Mowers. Commissioner Drysdale,
Here.
Commissioner Horton, Commissioner Flakus, Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Moore. The quorum's present.
Thank you. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public policy body, which is not already on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to make any comments at this time from the public? No? Then we will move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. Everybody had a chance to review them. I know there was a correction.
Yeah, correction on my end was just that I was not here at the last one, so I'll need to be marked as absent. I was like, oh, I'm present.
I know, I kept reading your name. I kept thinking, but she wasn't there. Okay, any other comments, amendments, changes? Okay, can I have a voice vote? All those in favor? Oh, a motion. Somebody want to make a motion to accept? I'll move to accept. Okay, all those in favor? Hand vote, aye. Motion passes. Okay, can we take a moment here? I'm going to take the liberty of a moment here to thank Dan Arp for the wonderful job he has done stepping in at a really critical time. And this whole last 4 months has just been tough when a lot of stuff came down on you, Dan. And I want to thank you because it was not your expertise, nor did you even want it. But thank you so much. And I know I ragged on you a couple times, but you're a good guy. Thank you. And to welcome Anna Freeman, yay, our new representative from the city to the Cultural Commission. Anna, would you like a few moments to just kind of fill us in as we say welcome to you?
Thank you. Anna Freeman, for the record, Recreational Program Supervisor, Arts and Culture. I look forward to working with all of you, and I hope that I'm here long enough for my work to speak for itself, and I don't have to say too much.
I think we would all vote in favor of that one.
Yeah.
And I feel really very positive, and after having, had a meeting with you, that we have found a winner. So I'm really, really pleased and excited where we go in the future. Item number 4, discussion only, presentation and discussion regarding an update on the activities of the Arts and Culture Commission. And boy, you've had a lot going on in this last 2 months. So it's all yours,
More to
Dan.
come, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
thank
more to
you.
come. Well, no, this isn't for him. Send him out of here.
Yeah, so for the record, Dan Arp, Recreation Superintendent. So we, as mentioned, we had a lot of things going on, arts and culture related for this summer. It's been a very busy summer, just recreation and arts and culture combined. So it kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I was going to introduce Anna. So we're excited to have Anna on board. This is now, today makes week 2, like 2 weeks exactly, right? So yeah, she's now fully, knows everything 2 weeks into it. So, no, but we're happy to have her along. And she'll kind of take the reins moving forward. But just as far as some updates on some of the big projects and things that we've had going on, I guess we'll start with the big one, which is the Roundabout project, which has been a big project this summer. So we do have a little PowerPoint, just kind of some presentation. You have some late material for a couple things that have come up. So you have this packet in front of you that you can follow along with as well. But just kind of give you a general idea of the timeline that we have done and then what's still to remain. And a couple of you are on the panel, so you're a little bit more involved in this process as well. But on May 8th, we opened up applications, sent out the RFQ for, this is, and we're referring to the Art Gateway project on the roundabout on South Carson Street. And so we opened that up. June 30th was the deadline for applications. We received 153 applications, which was a lot. I think we were expecting we were told that it was pretty typical to get about 50 to 75 in that range. So I think that means that people were very interested in this project, getting that many. So that's a good sign. Not so great for the panelists who had to review all those, but they did. And so that closed on June 30th, and then through the month of July, we had, those panelists had to review those 153 applications, and they went through every single one of them and scored them. And and then we notified, we were able to select 3 finalists for this project based off of their qualifications and previous work. And we just kind of have some, I think, a brief slides of some of their stuff to kind of get you familiar with who the artists are. Let me go ahead and skip to the, maybe? Is it frozen on you?
Let's see how it goes. Because that's some interesting artwork.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of great artwork that was submitted, and then obviously with the 3 finalists that we have as well. So right now we're in the. Well, switch on the computer, it's not up there, right? You need to press the.
Ah,
There we go.
bravo.
All right. So just so you know, we're the phase that we're currently in right now is that all the artists are required to come to Carson City and do a site visit. So I've and Jennifer Budge, our director, met with the first one because that was before we had hired Anna. So that was Curtis Pittman, who we see here. He came first, and then last week we met with Mike Sabo. But anyway, this is some of Kurt. Did you go by Kurt? Is that what his website says? I always call him Curtis. But so this is some examples from his resume that he sent us, and also I think you pulled maybe from his website as well. Just kind of his style of things that he's done. So we met with him first, and then the second artist that we've met with is Mike Sabo. He came out last Friday, and this some of examples of his work.
Okay, Barbara Janelle for the record. So when these 2 guys showed up, did they just talk with staff, or did they review the area? Did they get suggestions or?
Yeah, for sure. So it was mostly myself and said Jennifer Budge, our director, and then on the second tour we had Anna join us as well because she was now part of the team. We were the ones who showed her around, but we did get the as-built from Public Works that we provided them, that information, and then we gave them contact to someone at Public Works that they can ask questions to. We drove them around, showed them some of the other artwork in Carson City, like along the highway, and obviously we spent significant time at the roundabout to answer any questions that they had. They just walked around, took pictures, and did their own thing. And then we're making sure that we write down any questions that each artist has, and then we've sent those to Public Works to get answered, because some of them were a little bit more technical than I could personally answer. And so we're getting those answered, and then we're making sure that they're all getting sent out to all 3 of the artists, so they're all getting the same answers to all the questions. So we're making sure that no information is as a advantage because somebody asked a certain question on one. And then in addition to that, we're creating we're calling it kind of like a focus group, but the panelists and some of the members from the city, from Public Works, and some other integral people that are, could answer those questions. We're having an online meeting for all the artists to get together where they can ask any of those technical questions. They can ask the panelists what they're looking for, and just make sure that we just get all that out, that all the artists can get all the information that they need, so that hopefully when they design their proposal, that they meet the requirements of what everyone's looking for, and it doesn't require a lot of changes.
Because this is difficult when you want the business part on the south end to come together with the historical part and the residential part. This is a tough thing when you look at all the art that has been shown to us. That's a big task that they're taking on.
Right. And then, so the last artist who we haven't met with, she's coming out at the end of this month, is Karen Yink. So these are some examples of her artwork.
Nice.
So these were the 3 that were scored the highest from the panelists. We had 9 panelists that scored all of these applications. And so then, so Karen Yank, she's coming out at the end of the month. And then at the beginning of October is we're going to have that online kind of focus group discussion to go over all the information. And then the next steps on the timeline as well. So I mentioned that meeting on October 3rd, and then all their proposals are due on October 30th. So they'll send those into us, and then the next things that need to happen is that we're going to have a presentation from the artists to the panelists. And that could be done in person or they can call in. We're not requiring that they be here in person for that. They could call in and do it. But we're going to have a meeting with everybody together and do all three of the artists to present their proposals and what their design is. And then the panelists will, from that, be able to have we'll give some time after to be able to review and score and then give their recommendation to the Cultural Commission, which is the next to be determined meeting point on there, is that we do need to schedule a special meeting sometime in November for this, so that basically we can present that recommendation from the panel to you, and then you'll be able to give your recommendation or approval to the Board of Supervisors because they have the final approval, and that meeting is scheduled for December 21st. So that is the one thing we do have scheduled is that Board of Supervisors meeting. So that's kind of our timeline. We're trying to get everything in to get to that point.
It's a quickie.
Yes. And then according to the timeline, which is tentative, then the artist has January to June to actually construct the piece. But after talking to the artist, I think we're going to have some flexibility on, or at least maybe consider some flexibility on that, especially with winter and things like that.
Yeah.
So we got to give them some time there. But we're moving forward, and it's been actually really fun to, like I said, we've met with 2 of the 3 artists, and of the 2 that we've met so far, that have seen the roundabout are super excited about the opportunity, because I think there's lots of roundabout art going across the country, and both of these artists have done. I mean, we've talked about their resumes and the things that they've done. They're all over the country as far as the pieces that they've built, and so they've done other roundabout projects and things like that. And this is a super exciting roundabout because it's super prominent, has tons of traffic, it's big. They love that it's already elevated up and gives prominence to the piece. So it's pretty fun to see how excited they are. Like, oh wow, this is actually a really cool roundabout. And you can tell that they really want to win the bid. So hopefully they'll design something really great for us. I guess, I'll just keep moving forward on, unless you have specific questions on those things, I'll just kind of keep going on our updates with other things that have been going on.
Any questions?
Yeah, but thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mike Smith for the record. Dan, you mentioned Curtis Pittman. Is it Pittman or Pitt?
Pittman.
Pittman is a local artist, correct?
None of these are local.
Oh, I'm just curious. Where are they from?
So Curtis Pittman is from, he's in Washington State, but the greater Portland area. So just north of Portland. Mike Szabo's from San Francisco, and then Karen Yank is from New Mexico.
Okay. I don't know if you know this or not. Do we have anyone from Northern Nevada or in close proximity who sent in there?
We did, yeah. There were,
Submissions?
I don't remember how many. I didn't go through and actually
5
count.
or 6.
Yeah, but I do
5 or
remember that
6.
there were some
Local.
from Nevada, from Northern Nevada, just for, they didn't score as high. A project of this scope, a lot of these artists are doing national work, and they work for these big firms that do engineering and architecture and things like that. And so sometimes we get, folks from, lots of different places.
Thanks a lot.
It's finally going to happen.
We're making progress after many years.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, just a lot of programs and things that have been going on since we last met as well with arts and culture that Sierra had set up before she left. So we had our summer season, which is a real busy season for us. When last we met, it was June, right? So just getting started into summer. So we did a lot of, we call them contract classes in the recreation industry, but basically where we find that someone has specialized skills and we make a contract with them in Parks and Recreation for them to teach, and we provide them marketing and registration and a facility, but they teach the actual specifics because we're not that skilled in everything. So we had a contract class with Sierra Arts Foundation, and they've done a wonderful job this summer. We're now kind of calling that what was the Kinder building in the south parking lot here, the art building. We need to eventually come up with a more formal name for that building. But we've been running classes in there all summer long with Sierra Arts Foundation. They've done, we did some free grant type programs that were in May. And then in June, they did individual workshops. And then they did a summer camp for kids to come in. That was a week long. They came in every day for I think 3 hours. So we did lots of different kinds of programming, and we're going to continue that relationship with Sierra Arts moving forward. They have a variety of now moving into more adult-based art classes that they're going to be doing this fall season. And I know Anna met with them to try and start figuring out some stuff for starting in the spring, or sorry, in the winter and into the spring. So youth camps for like spring break and that kind of thing we're looking at doing.
Okay, Barbara Janelle again, for the record. During this summer, the children's art classes, they needed art supplies. And of course, we're on a very limited budget. And some folks in this room stepped up with some money to fund that. And I would like to invite other members on the commission to keep that going and make a donation so that these things can be funded, because they don't have the money in parks, nor do we have the money on the cultural commission. So anything that we could do to help, I think would be wonderful. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And then moving forward, we've also been working with the Pioneer Center for Performing Arts. They've done a variety of free performances at the Bob Boldrick Theater here in the community center throughout the summer. And those were free for the community to sign up and register for. We typically had anywhere from 40 to 50 people who registered for those. Towards this last one that we did a couple weeks ago, I think we had 83, I believe, that were registered for that.
Wow.
So we're looking at continuing that on some level. As we get into the fall and winter, the Bob Boldrick Theater is very heavily utilized. There's not a lot of availability. So that's the biggest challenge right now, is just looking for if there's a date here and there that we might be able to get another program in. So there's nothing set in stone moving forward, but we're still looking at that opportunity to see if we can keep providing those free performances for the community. And Anna's been working, starting to meet with these individuals and organizations. So if at any point you have anything to add to that, feel free. And then lastly, mostly, well, a couple other things, but mostly we have the Murals and Music Festival coming up at the end of this month. And so we've invited Eric Brooks to come up and kind of give us an update of where we are on that event coming up.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Brooks, for the record, from Brewery Art Center. Thanks for having me tonight. The Carson City Murals and Music Festival is coming along better than hoped. We're up to 23 artists, and I've been actually messaging during this meeting with a potential to add 2 more from a conversation I had a couple hours ago. And right now we're in the most exciting, other than the actual event, the most exciting point where we're getting final design approval from the majority of the walls, including we've just added, looks like I'm waiting for the last yes. We'll do a kickoff mural this weekend, at least before the 18th, with an artist who is in the Bay right now from Brazil. So we're finishing off the final details for that, and she'll be able to come do a piece before she goes back home. Yeah, it's on 801 North Carson Street. It's the north-facing wall that borders up against the Northern Nevada Children's Museum in their patio. It's 2 children kind of feathered over each other with lots of color and geometric design. It's her piece. I'll email it to you later once I get approval, Barbara. Other than that, our collateral is rolling out tomorrow morning. So we'll have posters all over Carson City, Gardnerville. We'll go out as far as Fallon, a little bit in Fernley and Reno. So we're going to really have a deep coverage to try to get people to travel in for this event. Visit Carson City has been an incredible partner and ally in this. The landing page is now up at Visit Carson City. They're still needed to add some of the artist bios, those sort of things, but the landing page is there. And we're getting coverage from Double Scoop, which is an online arts journal in Nevada. Nevada Ally is going to do some interviews. We'll also be doing Spanish language interviews on a radio station in Reno. I think Spike has some other ads, and we're talking with KUNR right now to do some ads as well. So I think we're going to have a really good push for people wanting to come out and knowing about the event and coming to be part of it. We also have secured a hands-on activity for the Saturday part of the event with Ogram's Home Pottery that's in the mall. And so that will be a free event for ages 6 and up to have a takeaway piece of ceramics that will have a relation to some of the imagery that's going to be going on during the event. I hope you like horses, because we've got a bunch of horses getting painted. Super exciting stuff. The furthest south that we will be going, Jesse Mallinson, who's painted 2 other Nevada State banks, one in Reno, one in Fernley, which he did just a few months ago for us for that festival. He's going to be doing a piece there, so we'll have a Jesse Mallinson trilogy here in Northern Nevada. And then one of the showstoppers is going to be Edwin Esco Martinez, who was the Art Town artist poster 2 years ago. He painted a 100-foot wall in Fernley for us in 2021. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's going to be doing the Chamber of Commerce building, all 3 walls. So it'll be a horse piece on the north-facing side. It will be a historic Inyo train piece on the backside facing the train tracks, and there'll be a Nevada map highlighting the railway system on the north-facing wall. Then coming down into town, we also added Lier Earlbelts, who's coming from Spain. She's doing her doctorate right now, and she's doing some Basque research study in Reno. Her and another woman who will be in town are going to paint a piece that has to do with the maternal feminine, which will also be a healing piece that refers to Lake Tahoe, the Stewart Indian School, and tragedy that happened with that, and the Basque, and then a woman who was the first to really be an advocate for the Native Americans. It's a colorful illustrated piece, and that will be at Brewery Arts Center.
At the Brewery Art.
Yep. So we'll actually have 2 at Brewery Arts Center. Josie Rock will be doing one as well. So one interior, one exterior. We're also hoping that she'll be able to do either an artist talk or something at the Children's Museum. We're still kind of figuring out those exact details, but she'll be here and she's going to be fantastic to work with. And imagery of her mural and also her time here in Carson during the festival will be highlighted in a gallery exhibition that she's doing in Pamplona. So she'll be bringing some of Carson City back to Spain with her.
Fabulous.
So those are some of the highlights. We're also hoping to paint on the community center and the library.
Yeah, we read about
They're
that.
going to talk more about that.
We
but
read about that.
some really exciting things coming, and want to thank you from both myself and Brewery Arts Center for your support from when we met last January, and all that you've done and outside of these walls to help make this event happen. So thank you all very much.
So, question, the music festival, you didn't mention who's going to be playing, what kind of music?
So the music aspect of it will be primarily, Thursday night we'll have music at the Brewery Arts Center for the meet and greet, where members of the community and all you VIPs can come meet some of the artists. We'll also be doing the unveiling of a new sculpture that's going to be permanently placed at Brewery Arts Center. So that's going to be more of an acoustic background type music. Then Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, we'll have an array of musicians at the Bank Saloon. There'll be jazz one night, the other one's more rock and roll, and I haven't heard who the Saturday night performer is yet. The big show will be Ian Moore at the Performance Hall. It will be ticketed. He is out of the Pacific Northwest. He's a blues rock and roll guy. He normally headlines festivals. He played the Levitt a few years ago, and he played the blues festival that was at Rancho San Rafael Park last year. So we were able to get him at a song to come down. It's crazy to have his full band coming for the event. So he'll be the big musical draw. We'll also be having, Saturday is going to be the big day. Northern Nevada Coin has their 30th anniversary on the 30th. They're painting, the entire north wall is being painted into a story that will tell of the mining in the early Virginia City days, and then it will travel down through train and river into Carson City, and then end with an interactive mural where you can catch coins coming out of the mint. So that'll be fun. We have another interactive one as well.
And where is that going to happen?
That's Northern Nevada Coin. Yeah,
Do they have enough space for that?
it's a giant wall. Yeah, it's like 120 feet by 40.
Oh, it's the one
The one on North Carson.
on North. Okay.
Yep. And so they'll be doing a bit of a festival in their parking lot as well that will include music, food trucks, some different things like that, face painting. And then we're hoping to have some traveling music on Saturday as well that will go from one wall to another wall. So the big production wall on 1850 North Carson, which is up to 7 artists right now, That's going to be a big draw. And then kind of move down and just have that travel kind of around as people are going to be traveling around themselves looking at the work.
Nice. Well done. Any comments? Anybody have any questions? Very exciting.
Great. Thank you so much.
I hope that we all show up in support of this. I can't hardly wait for it to happen. It's wonderful. God, thank you, Eric.
And then just finishing up our update. So Dan Arp again for the record. I forgot to mention, so as we said, we'll have to have a special meeting in November. So you'll be hearing some communications from us here in the next week or so to kind of get that pinpointed. And then lastly, I think that's most of the programs we have going on. Also with the Sierra Arts Foundation, we are looking at doing a fall art festival at Silver Saddle Ranch. So some details of that are still forthcoming, but that I believe we have slated now for November 18th. Yep. Holiday, okay. Perfect. But that is what's been going on this summer with arts and culture.
Gee. Dan, Barbara again for the record. 4B is a possible action, and since the conversation has been going on about the murals and so on, it's a possible discussion and action regarding recommendations to the city manager or the board of supervisors regarding the mural on the walls. What do you want to do with that? Of the library and the community center?
I'll start.
Yes. It says 4B on mine. Well, it says two agendas. That's okay with me. That's okay with me. I just want to know what we're going to do with this, because when it says possible action, we have to discuss it and do something with it, okay?
So are we moving on to 5B?
4 or 5.
For whatever, 4B,
Whatever.
5B? Yep, perfect. So yeah, Dan Art for the record, Recreation Superintendent. I'll kind of start us off, and then I'll actually turn it over to Anna to kind of run with this one. But just a little bit of background. So as you just got a lot of information about the Mural and Music Festival, so I don't feel like I need to add anything on that. But as Eric alluded to, there are 2 murals that are being proposed on public facilities, and we have to make sure that we're following the public art policy and kind of following that procedure for any art that's going to be put on our facilities. So that's what this agenda item is regarding. And so with the public art policy, there's it kind of lays out the steps that we need to follow in creating a panel, but it also says under that if there's special circumstances like unique opportunities, that we might need to change that process a little bit in order to accommodate something. And that kind of fits under this just because of the timing. I think we got the kind of the design drafts from the artists. I think it was like the last week of August, around the 25th, maybe something like that. And so we've been trying to move forward, but that's why none of it is all late material, because we had to create a panel, and then we have to present it to you, to the Cultural Commission, for your recommendation as well. So that's what the action item is. As what we did is we did create a panel, and this is kind of one of those things that we changed with the art policy slightly, is that there's a art review panel, and then there's a technical review panel. We kind of blur those together to have, just because of time constraints, we had members that would represent the public art side of things. We had some artists in the community. We had some regular patrons of the facilities, like the community center and the pool, that would be viewing those regularly. But then we also had some people that would represent the technical side of things as well, such as some members from Public Works and staff, so that we could just get everyone's opinions all at once, because there wasn't time to do 2 different reviews.
How did you choose your members?
A lot of them are identified in the public art policy. So on the panel, we try to include someone it would normally be the arts and culture manager for the CTA is identified in that. However, that's something I forgot to mention in our updates, but Deborah Stoll had resigned, so she's no longer with the CTA. So we had somebody else from the CTA represent that as well. And then just other identifies as local artists, so people that we had connections with that we knew. that who were professional artists in some form or another, who were members of the community. We reached out to them if they'd be on the panel. And then we reached out to, we asked like the managers at these facilities of who regular patrons are, who use this facility that they think would be responsive to doing something like this, so that we just get some public input as well. So we got a couple recommendations from patrons that we reached out to from like the pool and the community center and asked if they'd be willing to participate in the panel. So that's kind of how we didn't have, it was a very short time, but we reached out to who we could and tried to create a panel. I think we ended up with 12.
12, you had 12, 'cause I'm
Uh,
looking at the results.
Yep,
Here.
12 on the panel. So, and we just kind of put, the way we just did it, we just put a survey together that asked some questions on their opinions, and you have access to that as well. And ultimately, you know, what we're trying to get to is if they would recommend that specific mural to you, to the Cultural Commission. And then ultimately, it's up to you to decide if you want to approve their recommendation and give their recommendation to the city manager. So that's what the action item is whether or not you want to, I mean, you have the authority at this point to take the panel's notes and comments and then decide if you want to continue that recommendation. So Anna has this kind of a brief presentation to go over this PowerPoint and the survey and talk about some points there.
Thank you, Mr. Arp. Anna Freeman for the record, Parks and Rec what is my title even? Recreation Program Supervisor for Arts and Culture. As Mr. Brooks mentioned, this is going to be a very large festival, and there are many, many walls that are privately owned that are already set up with permission to be painted. We have two possibilities here for being proposed here tonight. The first is from artist Hannah Eddy, and you can see some of her previous work here on the screen. You can definitely get a taste for her style. Both of these artists are Northern Nevada based, so you may have seen some of their work around Northern Nevada. The second is Haley Meadows. You can see a little taste of some of her previous work here. And we'll move on to the survey results. As Dan mentioned, there were 12 people on the panel. It's in there, but you can do it now if you'd like. No, since you brought it up, the two walls being proposed, one is the south-facing wall of this building, the community center, and as Mr. Arp mentioned, the pool. When you are coming out of the aquatic facility, it's that wall right there that you see across on this building. The south-facing wall is the one proposed to be painted by Hannah Eddy. And then the east-facing wall of the library it's a smaller wall, and underneath the awning and windows, you can see if you're at the bus stop en route looking across at the library, it's right there. And I'll show you some pictures coming up here as well. So just to get a feel of who is on the panel, we asked how often they visit these locations. Every day, a few times a week, a few times a month, once a month, less than once a month. A little bit of a mix here, as you can see. When asked, do you feel the subject matter of the murals is appropriate for the audience, 100% said yes. Do you support the presence of murals in the city? Almost everyone said yes. One person skipped and said, I'm on the fence. A few here and there are fine, but I wouldn't want to see them everywhere.
Yeah,
We can't all be artists. That's okay. The panel
but not
has,
everywhere. Taste
has all kinds, yes. Do you feel the addition of murals to shared public spaces supports the Board of Supervisors' quality of life goal? And again, we had 10 people said yes. No one said no, but a couple said depends on the mural and no opinion. I thought it was important to ask if anyone saw anything on either proposal that might be unintentionally disrespectful with symbolism, and of course it can mean different things to different people. So the large majority said no, but one person did say yes. All in this together has themes that can be construed as politically motivated, but they may also fit many themes of Nevada, such as "Don't Fence Me In." And then one person who did say no, but they also said, I don't think I do think the choices of books may stir some opinions, but that's really it. This is the south wall of the community center, right across from the aquatic facility with a digitally added proposal. This is the proposal of the art from artist Hannah Eddy. It's called All in This Together. You can see it has mountain bluebird, sagebrush. It's definitely in her surfer skateboard style. And this is her proposal here. And this was the question proposed to the panel. What are your thoughts? So here are some of the thoughts from the panelists. Some people said it was bright, cheery, whimsical, engaging, fun, inclusive, but also it has an elementary school feel to it.
Yeah.
Someone said it would be a harsh clash of styles and elegance with the Inside the Mind of Da Vinci. I'd prefer to see something a bit more refined on this venue. You can see someone noted that they like the incorporation of the state symbols. Some are not a fan of the style. Some are. I'll let you go ahead and you can read all of those. These are in your packet as well.
Any
There were
comments?
certainly positive and negative included there.
I have a comment. Curtis Horton for the record. It's very childlike, and my grandkids would love it. You know, that's cartoonish and really neat. But when you talk about a public building, you should avoid the use of words and phrases that might be misconstrued by people. It lends itself to opening up debate and argument, and you should really focus more on the art and not a message. So I would oppose anything with words or phrases on a public facility, just so you know. But really cool looking.
And Susan Mowers for the record. Yeah, you know, looking at Hannah's, just what you put in the presentation, she does have some style that is not quite as cartoony, like some in the bottom right there. So I almost wonder if it's, you know, staying in that, you know, composition, but, you know, asking her to see if she can do it in kind of more of those geometrical kind of styles that she's got, like with the elephant, or with the whale. Sorry, my brain had a little brain fart there. And then, yeah, I wonder because I think, you know, we might have to, she's got, I know the Find Your Flow, that's in Reno, isn't it, on I'm not opposed to the words, but if it, you know, we're a smaller community and people are more engaged in this community, so I definitely agree, like whatever we can do to dissuade anything, but maybe there's something that she could write. Where did the phrase "all in this together"? Was that her proposal?
Yes.
Maybe something that just was more of a Nevada, like, you know, all Nevada or something like that. I don't know. That might be more in line. You know, because this is on the south wall too, I don't think it will clash as much with the Da Vinci mine because it's in a different area, and this is right across from the pool, and so I can totally see a lot of those kids like coming out and just loving this, and it's bright and vibrant. So those are my 2 cents.
Sam, Bethany, Mike?
Sam had any?
Yeah, everybody's looking at me like I have an opinion. I have an opinion. Well, all in this together kind of reminds me of the state motto, all for our country. It's not too far from something that's been, you know, established for 150 years. Not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could come up with something like it or a variant of, or I don't know if All for Our Country goes with that flavor of painting, but we could try it. That's all.
Barbara, for the record, I'm kind of in agreement with everybody. When I went through this at home, I thought, oh, that's cutie. And is that for the community, for this building? I don't know. Some are other, like, life is beautiful, that's a nice one. I mean, but again, it has words. But I'd like to see something a little more sophisticated than that. Can still be fun, but it kind of looks like preschool to me.
And Dan Arp, for the record. So one thing that we did before we created the surveys, I did reach out to both artists to kind of get a statement, because I know that especially on the maintenance side of things, there were some questions and concerns. So I want to make sure that we address those things. And so I reached out to them and asked a handful of questions. So both artists together. Oh, you have those now? Okay.
Anna Freeman, for the record, excuse me. Yeah, I have the artist answers for those questions.
You want those on the slider?
I don't know.
Usually not viewable if you're trying to show.
Oh, not particularly. Hannah Eddy stated that she used high quality aerosol paints that are light, fast, weather resistant, high coverage. She said that typically a mural lasts 10 to 15 years, but weather and sunlight can fade it over time. Some murals last much longer. Regarding maintenance, she said that a protective UV coating can be applied after the mural has dried, which will allow the wall to be cleaned and pressure washed off if needed. That's not a service that she provides, but she can recommend products. She does not typically offer touch-ups, but if that's something we're interested in, she would be happy to discuss. And when asked if she is willing to alter the design if the panel votes for an element to be different, such as the phrasing, she said, "I do not offer revisions on the design for this mural. I've designed a concept specifically for this wall and the community aspect of the location, and I believe this will be the most fun and impactful mural design."
Bethany Drysdale, for the record. I was one of the panelists for this, and my comment is the one about it feeling very elementary and clashing with Da Vinci. Although I'm really, really bad at geography, and so I wasn't picturing that wall. For some reason, I was thinking it was closer to Da Vinci. I know with the kids' programs coming in and out of here, the pool right there, I do think, I don't really like the style much, but it's not for me. It's not, personally designed for me. It's for the community. And I think on that wall, it actually probably would look really good. And I agree, build back better, better together. Those are all kind of catchphrases. And this I can see being one of those catchphrases that could be misconstrued politically. But we could, really tear down or, dissect every phrase out there and find something wrong with it. I think this could be misconstrued. Okay, so somebody might misconstrue it. I think the overall feel is more inclusive than those who are going to find fault with a non-inclusive phrase. Does that make sense?
Well, that's one.
May I, Chair? Anna Freeman, for the record. You can see now there was, out of the 12, one person said no, they would not recommend the mural on the south wall of the community center, while 11 said yes. And there are comments there as well.
Bethany Drysdale, for the record, and I feel like I should speak up again because that second comment is mine as well. I've been on, I can't even count how many RFP panels, and again, this isn't a mural for me personally. Personally, I don't especially like it, but I would recommend it because there's a process in place. There are a lot of things that go in behind the scenes. Artists submit proposals. Proposals are judged. They're judged on criteria. And I think ultimately you have to trust that process. And so I would put this forward as being one of two that was chosen for a public wall because it has gone through all of that. And it's not just for me to say, I don't like it, therefore get rid of it.
I'd like to ask Kurt, how serious is this about having words?
I'm pretty serious about it. I don't think you should open yourself up to a debate over a few words. I think when you talk about a public building, art's wonderful. Look behind you on the wall. There's no phrases, there's no words, there are no comments on any of that stuff in this room. It's beautiful, it's great,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's fantastic, but I would simply avoid it at this point. I just don't see a reason to have it.
Is that a
No.
city policy? or-
No.
No, it's not a city policy.
It's my opinion.
It's your opinion.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, Sam, Susan?
I mean, Mike Smith for the record. You know, they say that art is to the eye of the beholder. So with words or without words, I mean, you know, 6 and a half dozen other. I mean, if it didn't have words there, I would look at, for example, I have my eyes on those 2 horses there in the back. I could name it 2 guys having fun, 2 horses or brothers. I mean, why not let the person who is looking at the art to decide a title for it? I mean, so we're just talking a title. Does it have to be a title? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't make me no difference if it was a title there or not, but I don't know. I guess I have to give my colleague Curtis a little pushback when we're saying we are all in this together. I ask myself, how will that be divisive or misconstrued in a way that it would, I mean, I like the word together. I mean, and when you look at what's happening right now in this country, it's so divisive. Maybe it may be something pleasant to see that we are all in this together. We're doing something together. And art is one of those mediums that people can decide for themselves. But, you know, I have no objections either or. But, I mean, I agree it's a little cartoony. I think it's great in an elementary school or a setting or a room or something of that nature. But I don't have any objections with that phrase, we are all in this together, because that's a good thing. We are all in this together. That's a good thing. So those are my comments. Thank you.
And that's a great point of view, you know, and it really doesn't hurt my feelings either. But somewhere out there in this day and age, I don't know if you read the paper, you know, but why open the door? Why don't you just have a beautiful picture? And I agree with what you said before about the horses back there, for example. Let the person observing it name it and look at it and think what they want. Don't plant a seed. Plant something beautiful there for them to look at. Let them create their own thoughts.
Valerie Moore for the record. I guess I have more of a question. So the artist won't change the work. If they decide against this mural, is there an option for another mural, or is it just there won't be one on the community center?
If it is not approved this time around, there will not be one on the community center for this festival. It will, hopefully, we'll have other proposals in the future if this one is not chosen.
Okay.
Just Barbara, for the record, I looked at this, I thought, oh my God, there's a snake in there. This is not in my bailiwick, and those kind of weird little creatures. I don't know, I just, it didn't cut it for me. That's all. If she'd do something else, that'd be great.
Well, if it doesn't work for this festival, there will be more artists
There'll be
and
more.
more opportunity. It's not like this is the end of the world here.
Yeah.
Bethany Drysdale for the record. For this agenda item, there's the 2 murals that we're discussing, right? So
That is correct. Would you like me to move on to the second? The second is called Community Bookshelf. It's proposed for the east wall of the library, as pictured there in the lower left. It was originally designed for a larger wall, so the mock-up, you can see it looks a little different, but the current proposal is for the east-facing wall en route, just below the windows. And the proposal as well, this artist, Haley Meadows, said she is open to changing titles of the books, and as currently proposed before you today, the proposal is actually to have the Carson City Library Board of Directors choose the books to be included here.
Great, Barbara, for the record, I just looked at this and I thought, well, how many are woke, or how many have been, in other states? Oh, you can't have that book, and if the librarians choose it, I think this is wonderful for that wall. It fits.
If the librarians choose it, you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at some of these books right now. They have controversy in some other states.
Yeah,
and
Catcher
school
in the Rye.
districts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And school districts.
Yeah, and they are all American classics as well.
Yeah, well, they're
And then-
getting rid of
Then
classics.
one will also argue, well, why aren't there any books about African-American artists or whatever the case may be? To Curtis's point, we can't please everybody,
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad that the library directors are selecting the books.
Let them do
Not the
it.
culture
Then they-
commission.
They won't yell at us.
If I may, Anna Freeman for the record, the mock-up is not necessarily the books that will be included by any means. The proposal is that the library board will choose those. However, they are limited to books that are public domain. They can't put a book that has current copyright. So they are limited to the classics, the older
the older
books,
books.
yes.
We look forward to seeing what they choose.
Yeah. That's a great idea. It fits. From my point of view, it fits.
And you can see here some of the thoughts and comments on Community Bookshelf.
Bethany Drysdale for the record. I really love this one. I love the space
Yeah.
for it. Dare I say, I hope they do put a banned book on there. I mean, and maybe push the envelope just a little bit. But I think this one is just absolutely beautiful. I am too, art should make you think. But anyway, I just think this one is they knocked it out of the park.
May I ask a question, please, to Todd? We have a gentleman from the public who would like to make a comment. Is that okay? Is that okay?
If you want to take public comment on this item, you can. What I would suggest is that, you finish or you get more towards the end of your discussion. If you're there, then take public comment and then you can bring it back to the board.
Okay, so wait a few moments. Well, now we're kind of in a quandary as to, what's the pleasure of the group?
Sounds like one we're good with and
One we're good? Yeah,
not this time.
yeah,
So we voted here, which one?
not yet.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, well, no, we're not gonna, yes, we will vote ultimately, but, it's however we choose to say, we like this one, we would prefer to see something else on the other. They're both wonderful artists, but at this point in time, this is how the committee feels.
And Dan Art, for the record here, just to clarify a little bit on what your motion would be when you get to that point. According to the public art policy, the city manager has the authority to make a decision, or she can decide to defer to the Board of Supervisors and bring it as an agenda item there. I think originally when we had presented this to Todd, it was just, we had put, it was just going to be recommended to the city manager, and then I think it got changed when it was uploaded. So that's why it says city manager or the Board of Supervisors, but you can add anything you feel like they're there. But I think that we had discussed that it would be to the city managers who are recommending to, and then she could decide if she wants to use that authority to approve, or if she wants to send it to the Board of Supervisors.
But you want a recommendation from this?
Correct. You'd recommend or not, individual, one or the other, or both, or however you desire to do that.
Okay. Now, before we do that, could we take a brief public comment? You have a max of 3 minutes. Thank you. And please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commission. I oppose any of art mural going up on a public building without a more broad survey of suggestions and review. I'm appreciative of all the intention of this group as far as their going into it as much as you have in your discussion today. Anything that goes on a private building for this festival is fine. I do wish that and hope that they're considering their structure, their architecture, their materials, because I think architecture in itself is art. You don't need to put something on it to make it beautiful or enduring or whatever. It's hard enough to maintain natural historical sites. If somebody wants to put it on their brick building, fine. But a city building, anything like that, to me, should be then reviewed by more of a community type deal. Your recommendations are important. Your review to narrow it perhaps in the scope of who's going to be selected from. But that the ultimate selection should be a community endeavor. For the festival on private property where it's allowed and it's not going to cause a wreck at this corner or that corner, fine. My thing is murals are something on a structure that changes that structure architecture, its look, its need or suggestion of what it is. Having that on there looks like I'm going into an elementary school for me personally, but the artist is amazing. I love the art. I would love to see it in a nursery school or inside of a play area, but not on a building I'm looking at through the eyes of this community's nature, its historical value, its look towards the future value. It's locking us in a time frame that our historical things have already set up. We should either follow it, stay away from it, let the structure speak for itself, art inside maybe, or on private property. City stuff, we're going to have to maintain. This art is very sophisticated.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
comments. We'll put it in
Danny?
the record.
Could you just
Thank
state
you.
your name for the record?
Oh,
I'm sorry, Denny
Denny.
French, Carson City.
thank you, Denny. Okay, well, we can entertain a motion, or do you want more discussion at this
I
point?
have a question. So,
Sure.
to Danny's comments, how was the survey disseminated? I mean, I'm only seeing 12 people, and that's really not a good broad representation of the community. And how was it disseminated? I mean, how did people know about this? Because just 12,
Dan Art for the record. So we're following to the best of our ability the public art policy, which generally isn't open-ended to the community. We try to select a panel that represents the community in different ways from, like I said, we included patrons and different members of the community. But according to the public art policy, which was approved by the Board of Supervisors, that's kind of the process, is that we create a panel that represents the community as best we can, and then they make a recommendation to the Cultural Commission and this process that we're following. So the panel was created, as we discussed earlier, and how that process was, and that's why there's only 12. But that, we haven't sent this out in just a mass survey to anyone in the community to put input in, because that's not how the public art policy is identified it.
Well, okay, and thank you for explaining the public art policy. I thought I read it, but apparently I need to go back and review it. So a board member is on the panel. She just said she gave her comments, right?
Mhm.
Who were the other representatives, age groups or ethnic groups who really completed this survey? I mean, how was there someone from 18 to 25 age group? Was there a 30 to 40 age group? Was there someone in the library one day? Let me go ahead and get this person's opinion. I mean, I need to know the process. How were those 12 people or individuals who commented? It could have been more, but only 12 commented on it. You understand the question I'm asking?
Yes, so Dan Art for the record. Like I said, we try to follow the public art policy, and they outline several of the members who should be on a panel, and then it gives us some liberty to include some of the community members. So, we didn't really take into consideration age. We just kind of try to find people who best represented the different areas identified in the public art policy. So we did include some from the library. Like I said, we try to include a pool patron. So even though it's not on the pool wall, they're the ones who are going to be walking in and looking at it every day when they walk in and out of the aquatic facility. We try to include, it was actually just a regular instructor that uses a private member of the community, but uses the community center on a regular basis to get their point of view. And then obviously we include the staff members. So we have the manager of the community center, the manager of the aquatic facility, someone over from the library as well. And then probably pull blanks. So like I said, we try to include public works and maintenance so that we can get their input on that as, you know, because that's an important piece of it. And then also identified in the public art policy is members of the Cultural Commission. So we invited 2 members of the Cultural Commission to be on the panel. We also try to include someone from the Parks and Recreation Commission, just because it's, especially for the one on the community center, it's going to be on a community, you know, Parks and Recreation building. So we want to make sure that they were at least included in that discussion. So we tried to be as strategic as we were. As I said, we only had about a week to try and throw this together for the timeline that we had to make it in time for the Cultural Commission. But we tried to be really strategic about getting community members, getting people who represent the different commissions from the library, Parks and Recreation, Cultural Commission, some artists from the community, from the Sierra Arts Foundation, other professionals that we know that are in the arts field that we invited to be on as well. We had a representative from the Cultural and Tourism Authority because they, to take place at Deborah's position, since that's vacant right now. So that's kind of, I think, that hopefully covers everybody off the top of my head.
Representative.
But tried to be as representative as we could with not making it, you know, a 30-person panel.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm, at this point, do we wish, okay.
I have a
excuse me,
question for
Kurt.
Todd. Can we separate these locations into different motions, or we have to make one motion?
You can separate them into 2 different motions.
Thank you.
We can entertain a motion at this time if we're through with the discussion. Anybody want to make a motion?
No, not necessarily, but I just want to clarify. One motion could be, we recommend to move forward the book mural on the library to the city manager, and that's it. I don't think that we have to do a
Is that
motion.
your motion? Sounds good.
Well, I don't know if
Sounds
it's,
good to me.
Sounds like she just made it.
Yeah.
if it's appropriate, because I was on the panel, so I want to make sure it's appropriate for me to
Sure.
not commandeer the the action. But yes, if that's appropriate, I would move forward the library mural to the city manager.
Second.
Yes.
Second.
Kurt, he seconded it. Any other thoughts, or does that work for everybody?
I just want to make sure I'm clear before we vote. The library commission will decide which books. right?
Librarians.
They
yes.
will,
Librarian.
they will
Decide which
propose, they will
They will
propose which
propose.
books.
Will they seek feedback, hopefully more than 12 respondents from the community of what names of the book should be? Can anyone answer that for me?
I wouldn't touch it
He
with a
has his
10-foot
hand up.
pole.
Yeah, Eric has his hand up. Right, Eric?
Eric, please come for the record.
My name is Eric Brooks for the record. When we met with the library board a couple months ago, they formed a subcommittee, and within that subcommittee is the group that chose the titles, the potential titles that would be used. It's my understanding they chose more than would be needed. Then that would give the artist some leeway to choose what she thought best would flow. But all the books would be public domain, and they would all be, from my understanding in meeting with that group, non-controversial. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just, again. You know, we are the Carson City Culture Commission. I would just like to see a diverse selection of books. That's all I'm asking for.
The committee did talk about diversity in that meeting. I wasn't in the subcommittee. Diversity was brought up. African-American books were brought up as being a possibility. And what was most brought up was being able to have local artists represented within that book. So not just famous people, but also, if possible, someone who was local. I would almost guarantee a Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens title will be in that group
That's pretty
because of
fair.
that.
That's fair.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on the motion. Let's do a roll call vote, could we please?
Of course.
So this is the roll call vote. Chair Denea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mars,
Yes.
Commissioner Drysdale, Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Ficus, Commissioner Smith,
Mike?
Commissioner Smith?
He's thinking.
Yes,
Yes. Oh, okay.
I was thinking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Moore, I can't see you guys, that's why.
Yes.
Yes. So it's unanimous,
So it's
Madam Chair,
unanimous,
and it's, a motion carries.
Thank you. Should we entertain any thoughts or comments about the first one? The community center. I can't make the motion, so,
We're gonna do just like we did on this one, right?
yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
What's the motion?
Well, I'll make a motion. I move to not approve the mural on the community center as presented.
I second.
Any comments?
Yeah.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
would you accept a slight modification to the motion to say,
absolutely.
I move not to recommend this mural to the city managers?
Will do. I move to not recommend this mural on the community center.
Is that acceptable to the second?
Yeah.
Okay, please call the roll.
Chair Deneo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mars,
Yes.
Chair Drysdale. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Drysdale, Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Ficus, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Moore. Again,
Motion.
Madam Chair, it's unanimous, and it carries.
Okay. So then we just ask you, please, to take that to the city manager and see what she chooses to do with it from there. Okay? Thank you. It was a good discussion, and I'm glad we did it. And I think this is the public, this is what we're supposed to do. So, okay, the next item, where's I have so many papers. Why do I get so many papers at these? Yeah, items, numbers, well, item number 5A are comments from the members of the commission is what I have on mine. So we're down to 6, right? Comments from members of the commission. Usually that's events that they're involved in going on or in town or whatever you want to talk about in terms of what's happening.
Mike Smith for the record. I had the opportunity to visit the artist at WNC for her, wow, I can't lose in the thought. What's her, I can't think of her name. The Korean artist who had the reception for
Oh,
this
yeah,
past.
she was wonderful.
Yeah,
Wink,
Hoon
yeah.
King, yeah. Some beautiful work. When I first walked in, I saw those donuts there on the table, and I said, wow, they have some food here. As I got closer to them, they are not the edible donuts, but it was quite well attended and some beautiful work. I just want to mention that to the board. Thank you.
Valerie.
I just wanted to add on that Sierra Arts will be doing an event at the Silver Saddle Ranch on Saturday, November 18th. It's going to be like a holiday art sale with live music and all this sorts of fun stuff because they're not doing the normal holiday thing that they have done in the past. So
Can they send out invitations or?
I will absolutely do that.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. That would be very helpful. I'd like to bring up a comment, a hopeful comment. The minutes reflected it, several people stating that they wanted to have more information about the role of the members of the Cultural Commission, about what it is we're about, and I had discussed it with Anna. I think it's time to have a session, whether it's educational or whatever we want to talk, but to put things like all of the issues that we've brought up in this last year, particularly the RAC grants and the scoring. And I received several messages from Ellie Bugley. Their project that we gave them money for is completed, but she doesn't have the papers to send in the report. So if somehow those papers could get to her, that would be terrific. The letter from Carol Scott that I think everybody received a copy. I think it needs to be addressed. I think it's here. Again, it comes back to the rec grants and that whole thing. So how does everyone feel about having just an hour or two session where we can just sit down and talk about what's the role, what are we supposed to do, what's our responsibility? Everybody feel good with that? Okay.
Anna
Yes,
Freeman,
we-
for the record, I'd be happy to work with Mr. Reese on that.
Okay, that's terrific. That's my comment. Hope I didn't get us in trouble, but I really think, because there've been so many changes, you know, and it's been difficult for both staff and for the members of the commission. And on this group today, we have a whole lot of new people. And while this commission has been in existence for over 10 years, I think it's 12 or 14, whatever it is, the rules have changed. And I think we need to be caught up on what's going on. So can we please put together a time for us to get together that works for everyone? Because I'd like how do you feel about that? Everybody okay with that, Sam? Oh, well, that has to be noticed. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't have more than two people, you know. So, and that's okay. That's fine with me, because we are supposed to do everything in the public venue. All right, any other comments? Any future agenda items? Well, we just named one, to have a meeting to just sort through who and what, where, when, and why. Now,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Mike Smith again for the record. So there was some discussion the last meeting that there was a subcommittee supposed to get together, and going back to the grants that we approve on the rubric and the process, what was the outcome of that meeting? Did such meeting take place?
not that I am aware of. I think there was just so much going on that didn't happen,
Yeah,
right?
Dan Art for the record. So when I was reviewing the last meeting, yeah, it was definitely when this topic, right? We brought up future agenda items. That was definitely the main one they brought up was the scoring, the rubrics, and obviously with just hiring the next arts and culture supervisor 2 weeks ago, I didn't feel appropriate to have that. I wanted to give her some time to be able to figure that out. So we didn't bring that to this meeting, but I figured that would be one that we could do either December or some future
But
meeting
that
time. But
would
that's why
be-
we didn't bring it up, just because we were trying to get that arts and culture. I wanted them to be included in that process since they're going to be the one administering it next year.
I think, Michael, to directly answer that, that is what, I was kind of referring to that when I was talking about we need a workshop, because we need to go over what does the RAC grant mean? What is the process? And again, I mean, we may come away with this saying, we don't have enough money. I mean, at some point in time, we're going to have to really look at this. What is this grant about? And how is it really helping folks? Anyway, that's where I'm coming from. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? Future agenda items, well, we've already said two. Okay, so now to end this, Denny or Eric,
If, Madam Chair, just so you know, on the agenda that I have that was posted on the website, there was a number 6 for staff updates. I was just bringing that to your attention in case you wanted to ask for staff updates.
well, I don't have that on my agenda here, but whatever, that's fine with me. Staff updates. You're on. Oh, okay.
That's what we got. I don't know, yours must have been different.
I know.
So
well,
Dan Art for the record.
Okay.
I think probably what happened is, and I know that our administrator, Patty, she's the one who uploads these, and I think she's working on changing the agenda to match what we do for the other commissions that we work with both Open Space and the Parks and Rec Commission, so it's all the same format, which it wasn't before. Because following the previous format, we already did staff updates as 5A, and then I think this got included as it's kind of morphing into, I don't have any further updates. We've talked about everything. So, but I think that's what's going on, is I think we're just kind of, you'll see the next agenda will probably look different, because I know that her goal was to make it all of our 3 commissions that we work with to all have the same template.
Template.
So we're working on adjusting
Anna,
that.
do you have any further comments you want to make? Todd, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, thank you. Since it was on the agenda, I simply wanted to make sure it was at least addressed, and it has been, even if there are no comments, and we can go from there.
So the next item is public comment at this time, because at the beginning and at the end of these meetings, you have to have an opportunity for public comment. Okay? Identify yourself again, please.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you so much, Chair, for this opportunity to get to know you better, and I look forward to getting to know and have watched the progression of your understanding of your positions too, because I think it's still a little vague. Certainly for me as a public, being on the outside, even your agenda didn't follow some of your agenda. Mine, I think, was more in line with Todd's. But thank you very much. And while I would have liked to have changed your suggestion on making a vote or a motion to not include any city buildings for this particular event, I want to have an inclusive event. Having said that, I didn't want public not to have say as to what's going to be on public buildings. And I think 12 wonderful people discussed this, or with their friends and such, or maybe as a unit. I'm not sure how that worked, but I appreciated that. That was good. It just didn't conclude in a way I would have liked to have been part of. And whether that stood up or stood out or whatever, but I like the idea that you're going to give us a chance to get to know who, what, when, and where. And I would appreciate that very much, because when I read what you mean or what you're supposed to stand for or stand up for, it's evolving for me. And so thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for what you're presenting. I look forward to having a chance to see that agenda and jump right in. And thank you for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Again, the public speaks. Well, as they should. So if there are no further items that anyone wishes to bring up,
I'm sorry, Madam
Mike?
Chair. At the beginning, and it got away from me. We 22 years ago on this date, we know America was hit, and I think before we adjourn, if nothing else, I think we should take a moment of silence to never forget, but always in our hearts. And God bless America. I mean, if it's appropriate, Todd, can we all take a moment of silence on this time?
If the chair wants to take a moment of silence, I don't have any issue with that.
absolutely. 9/11 still rings every day in my head. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike. That was timely and certainly well done. If there's no further comments, this meeting is adjourned.